What's up everyone, back for another beer review, and today I will be reviewing a beer from New Holland Brewing, and they're out of Holland, Michigan, and this is their Dragon's Milk Triple Mash. So on the label they're calling this a bourbon barrel aged stout, which essentially is an imperial stout that is aged in bourbon barrels for 1 year. Comes in at 17% alcohol by volume, 30 IBUs, and at the time of review, this bottle is just under 2 months old. And I want to give a huge thanks and shout out to a good friend of mine and viewer of the channel, Jeff, aka NoJinx, for hooking me up with this one. I'll post a link in the description box to the beer mail unboxing video I did that contained this beer and another beer from Oddside Ales, their Banana the Foster. Thank you very much, Jeff. I do appreciate it. So Jeff had this one, and from his Untapped check, and I remember him saying this is like Bourbon County-esque. Like, he thinks this is the best Dragon's Milk he's ever had. But full disclosure, I've had this one. I had a previous version of this one. I think it was at the 2015 Detroit Fall Beer Festival. I had a pour, and just, you know, to be honest with you, it was the end of the fest. My palate was shot, and I just remember saying this was a sweet mess of a beer, which, you know, after drinking 30 or 40 different samples, I'd imagine that's, my palate was just so wrecked. I was just like, oh, this is a sweet mess. Now it is 17%. I mean, so it's probably going to be a big, sweet imperial stout. And, you know, I really like Dragon's Milk, the base beer. I've loved a lot of their variants. Some of them are, you know, a bit of a miss for me, but this one sounds just awesome. I don't know if we're going to get distribution of this in the Western New York area. I hope so, for everybody's sake, because, well, yeah, the feedback on this one seems, you know, pretty good. So we'll see. We're going to give it a pour here into the Prairie little glass here. I didn't want to have a huge glass, just stop me from over pouring on camera. So we're going to, you know, fill this probably like halfway and go from there. It's a lot lighter than I anticipated it being, honestly. Wow. So that poured out like almost Coca-Cola looking. In the glass, yeah, you know what? That does not, that actually has mahogany and ruby red tinges at the bottom of the glass. This is not straight on pitch black. Yeah. I mean, that's like dark brown, mahogany, ruby red with a little bit of black in there. Had about a half finger of this tan head that is dissipating to a thin film, 17%. You kind of expect that. Yeah, the look of it, it just looks, it looks thin at 17%. I don't know. Let's get a nose on it. For 17%, this does not come off overly boozy on the nose. I'm getting a little bit like Coca-Cola. It looks like Coca-Cola, a little bit on the nose, Coca-Cola. There's definitely bourbon there, don't get me wrong. There's bourbon, there's really deep, dark, roasted malt. There's a lot of like super, like almost borderline char malt. Then there's, you know, caramel and toffee, just really deep, sweet malt characters, this one. There's a nice vanilla tinge to it as well. A little bit of oak tannins, big molasses character right on that last sniff. Yeah, molasses, burnt sugar, brown sugar. Oh, you know what? This smells super complex and actually quite tasty, but I can't believe it's not as boozy. Now, you'll see condensation on my glass and whatnot, and that's because it's super warm out today. It's like 80 something, and I had this in the fridge. This has been out of the fridge for well over an hour. This is probably in like the 60, 65 range, so probably appropriate drinking temperature. I know, Paul, if you watch this, Paul from PA Brew News, I know I should be drinking this boiling. I get it, but like this is I think perfect temperature for probably what they want you to drink it at, maybe even cooler than this, but yeah. Just want to point that out because I see the condensation on my glass. I'm like, no, I'm not drinking this at 40 degrees. Like, it's, you know, it's definitely in the 60s. It smells really good. It kind of doesn't smell like I thought it would. It definitely smells sweet. So harken back to my, you know, 2015 Detroit Fall Beer Festival memory of this beer. It does smell sweet, but it doesn't smell like a mess. It smells super cohesive and complex in the nose. There's like, you know, 8 to 10 different characters going on. And yeah, it just smells damn good. So let's get into it. Cheers, everybody. And thanks again, Jeff. There's no way that's 17%, right? Oh my God. What is that? That is delicious, whatever that is. I'm getting some kind of like candy bar type of note to it. First off, it definitely, the booze is noticeable, okay? It's 17%. It's hard to hide a 17% beer. But drinking this blind, I would say like 12, 13, not 17. This drinks, actually, this might be a little less boozy for me on the nose and in the taste than like Bourbon County. Yeah, it's boozy, but not to 17% level. I'm getting a little bit of that Coca-Cola vibe in this one. I don't know what's wrong with my palate or if that's like something that people pick up. I get like molasses, like a slight cola vibe to it. But then there's this like, you know what it is? Now that it's opening up and I'm getting on my palate, this has, for me, straight on like almond joy characteristics to it. Definitely getting toasted coconut. I'm getting like almost a nuttiness to this one as too, and then a huge sweet dark chocolate component. Maybe more of like, because I know almond joy is just right, milk chocolate with the almond, and the coconut, and then Mounds is the dark chocolate. This is like if you took an almond and threw it into Mounds because it's sweeter dark chocolate, toasted coconut. Oh man, that's good. The body on this one is a little bit thin. Actually quite a decent amount thin for 17%. I'd say like lower side of full body to medium full. This is not thick and syrupy and chewy. That's the one, I guess, negative to this beer right now is that the body itself isn't what I would anticipate a 17% beer being. Could be just my palate, but for me, I want something that is very viscous and chewy and thick and just like, you know, just it's almost like chewing the beer, right? Not to that level. So the one negative to this one would be the body. The mouthfeel, though, is really nice. It's carbonated, but it's soft. It's relatively smooth. And then the palate, yeah, just there's a lot of bourbon up front, like really nice bourbon, caramel toffee, a lot of vanilla in this one. But again, I can't stress enough how much I'm getting like an Almond Joy meets Mounds bar in the taste. It's not, this is the thing, beer is not sickly sweet to me. It is sweet. A 70% barrel aged for a year Imperial Stout's gonna be sweet. That's just how it's gonna be. But there is a nice amount of tartness, hopefully not, dryness on the back of this. From the alcohol that just kind of cuts it just enough from stopping it from being cloying. Like if that dryness wasn't there, I'd probably finish half this beer and just be like, I'm done. You know, I can't do it as is. I'm drinking this one and it's noticeable into the chest, into the stomach, but like on the palate, this drink's like 12, 13% as opposed to 17%. And that cola vibes on the taste too. This is super complex. Yeah, there's so many different things going on in this one. This is the definition of like a sipper, right? So this is a beer you want to sit down for like an hour and dissect and just drink. Every single time I take a sip, there's something here. There's either cola, there's that Almond Joy, there's the Mounds, it's a barrel, there's vanilla, just the one thing I will say, the aroma, it carried over. I'm not getting like a shari, big like roasted malt character. I was getting that in the nose, not really in the taste. It's a nice fucking beer. The body for me is a letdown, unfortunately. So I got to knock it as far as the score goes there. And just overall, this isn't the best, barrel-aged Imperial Stout I've had. I see where Jeff is coming from, where he was like, this is comparable to Bourbon County and whatnot. I can definitely see that. For me, the thinness of this beer and just the overall, I think like a beer like Bourbon County for me is just more well-rounded. It's more cohesive and just like it just feels more blended like as a whole. Like the beer just seems like there's not, this one kind of, you get a character here, you get a character there. It's complex, but it's not as cohesive as a beer like Bourbon County. But again, that's my own opinion. I mean, Jeff's welcome to his, obviously, and so is anybody else. Just for me, that's what I'm feeling for this one. But I can't deny this is a great beer. Yeah, so Dragon's Milk Triple Mash from New Holland. I'm going to give this a high 4.5 out of 5. I'm going to go 4.6 out of 5. This is really good. Now, as I'm talking, it's definitely a chest warming, almost a burn in the chest. So the alcohol's starting to sneak up on me a little bit and let you know, like, hey, this is definitely a bigger beer. But like I said, when you're drinking on the palate, there isn't like the alcohol vapors that get into your nose and you're like, oh man, it's not like you took a shot of bourbon, right? 17%, that's pretty high for a beer. But I think they hide it relatively well. It's kind of scary in a lot of respects. I don't think anybody will drink this one and be like, oh man, that's not a big beer. No, it drinks like a 12, 13% beer for me, but just not 17%. 17% is fucking huge. That's a huge beer. So like I said, really good beer, super complex, not sickly sweet, although it is sweeter. And yeah, it's just really well made. I wish it was a little bit thicker. I wish it was a little bit more well-rounded, but at the end of the day, I can't deny it's a great beer. So 4.6 out of 5 for Dragon's Milk Triple Mash from New Holland. Way better than I remembered. I think give it like a 3.5, 3.75. 25 when I had Detroit Fall Beer Festival. But at the end of the day, that's why when you go to a fest, you really can't take too much what you say, for fact, or at least what your opinion dictates when you're 20, 30, 40 pours in, because it's like, I mean, your palate shot at that point. But price point on this one, I'm not sure. Jeff, let me know. I saw on the release when they announced this, I think like a month and a half ago, that maybe a couple months ago actually, because this came out in April. I think they mentioned this was going to be $24.99 a 4-pack at the brewery. I imagine when it gets distro, you probably bump up a couple dollars. So I'd imagine $6 to $7 for a bottle of this. Let me know what you paid for it, Jeff. But $6 or $7 for a bottle, yeah, well worth it. And I think availability definitely in Michigan. I have not seen it yet in my neck of the woods, but if it shows up here, I'll be pretty happy. But at this point, I'm probably thinking Michigan only, and probably some distribution to some parts of the country where New Holland gets distribution. But like I said, here in Western New York, we haven't seen it. So appreciate everybody stopping by for another beer review here on the Beer Patrol. And thanks again, Jeff, for hooking me up with this one. It was a lot of fun. If you had this one before, let me know what you think about it. Until the next one, cheers.